Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
Hey everyone, my name is Stephanie and I am Stephanie Orlina, and I am a transformational life coach, and I'm in San Diego, California. That's what happens when I'm thinking about something else as I'm speaking.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching today. We just want to let you know we often mention Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can search on Google or on YouTube to find out more about them, or you can find more about them online at abraham-hicks.com. And I do just want to let you know everything we share on our podcast here is Stephanie and I's own opinion. We're not affiliated with Abraham Hicks in any way, but we're just huge fans. Each week we start our discussion off from a different jumping off point. And this week, Stephanie, I think you kind of had the jumping off point for us. We discussed it briefly in friend time as usual. But I'm glad you brought it up because it's something that I feel like as soon as you started mentioning, I was like, oh yeah, that is a really cool concept from Abraham that's helped me a lot. And I don't feel like we have talked about it in a while. So
Yeah, so I was listening to All Love, All One, All One, All Love. It's a channel on YouTube that I absolutely love. And this particular one was the manifestation isn't the person, place, or thing. It's actually the emotion. Because when I really want something, I want it because I think I'm going to feel really good having it. And so the manifestation is really the emotion that I'm looking for. I think it's this thing, person, place, or thing, or being a certain way or whatever. It's really not. I want it because I think I'm going to feel really good. Well, I can do that manifestation now. Like within 10 minutes or less, I can feel better now. And so, like, even in friend time, I was feeling pretty good, but by the time we were done, I was feeling really good. Like we were laughing and having fun. And I think the same thing for you, right?
mm-hmm.
And so that's really what I'm looking for. And when I heard it over and over again, I was like, man, I can do that now. Like I don't have to wait to get that thing or postpone my joy or my happiness or me feeling good until I get that thing, or I'm going to be miserable until I get it. It's like, I can feel good now. There's like a lot of things that I can do, or just hanging out with you for the last half hour. I feel a lot better than before we got onto Zoom and started chatting.
That's how everybody feels when they hang out with me, by the way. They feel better.
Oh, I don't have the market on that one.
No, I'm glad you brought it up because Abraham brings this up pretty regularly in her workshops, and it's an interesting concept because first of all, it plays a little bit with what is the goal of living a good happy life. Is it getting everything you want, or is it just being able to enjoy your life and feel good?
Just
And
think about it.
really,
We can still get those things and not be
yeah,
that great. There's a lot of people out there who have everything they wanted and
yeah,
they don't feel that great. They're not that happy or something,
right. But that's the strange thing is that to a certain extent, we have the capacity to feel rich, even if we're not physically,
Yeah,
financially wealthy at this exact moment.
right.
We can feel like we have a really great partner, even if we don't at this exact moment. Like we can feel all these things. Our brains and our bodies allow us to do that. And
Right.
it's sort of one of those things of like, because people say all the time, especially like I think there's a lot of talk about using the law of or working with the law of attraction to attract your perfect romantic partner, right? And what gets said a lot is, well, really the best way is just to feel great about yourself, like be in love with yourself, take
Or,
yourself on dates, whatever.
yeah,
But the
like that
weird part
card
of
when I
that
was doing the
is
reading earlier.
the thing is not to the point of that is not to get you to a state where I don't know exactly how to describe it. Not to get to a state where you're controlling yourself as a magnet. Like you're like, oh, okay, now I love myself. I feel really good. So I'm this magnet, and I'm going to attract a partner, that probably will happen. But the point is, you don't have to do anything. It's just you're getting your vibration in the correct state to allow it in. But then the irony is, if you feel really great and you love yourself and whatever, you're not going to sit around depressed about how you don't have a romantic partner. Like, you already feel great.
Well,
So,
and it's that whole thing. If I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to do this so I can attract that, I'm already thinking of the lack of it
right,
because
right.
I'm saying, well, if I do that, I'll attract that thing.
That's the
So it
flip
doesn't
side.
work
Yeah.
anyways. Yeah.
But it's one of those things, is if you realize, like, if you sit there, and in The Secret, they do a really good sequence about, somebody who wants to, just as an example, attract a car. And they sort of have this really great visual in the film of somebody visualizing that they have the car. So they sit in an armchair in their house, but they close their eyes and they actually, like, kind of, they put their hands up and they feel the steering, they just imagine feeling the steering wheel until it's so real. And the weird thing is, if you spend time, I've done this, I feel like I should do it a lot more often, but if you do that on a regular basis, like, you get to this stage where, like, you don't need the car anymore.
Well, it just feels good right then in the moment, right? He's
But
already conjuring that
right,
thought of,
yeah,
and so it's like he has it.
right,
And then I think the other trick of the other part of that, because it's a two-parter, is trusting and believing it's coming.
yeah.
Like it exists. It's on it because I
Which is
heard
way
this.
easier which is much easier to do if you've spent that time doing that, and is nearly impossible if you're focused on the lack of it.
Oh yeah, I can't even get there from there.
Yeah.
So I heard this one this week too that I had to write it down because I loved it so much and I hadn't heard it in a while. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, dude, that is so juicy. I love that one. So speaking of, so I was thinking about this the other day, and I give myself a coaching session. Years ago, I started doing this every week because I thought, here I'm helping my clients feel really good. And it's like, but I felt a little jealous. I'm like, I want some of that too. So I started giving myself a coaching session every week. And so this week in the coaching session, I kept saying, tell me something good. Well, what else? Tell me something else. And I spent almost the whole time doing that. And so one of the things I started talking about was when I met David and him, I just want you to know, you gave me so many gifts, you have no idea. So from that experience that, we weren't together for an hour and a half, but from that time that I met him to the time that he left, it was probably about that length of time. And there were so many awesome, good feeling, conjuring moments of the characteristics, the feelings that I want to have with my ideal partner. And so I was talking about it and I was thinking about it a lot. And so I kept doing it. Even after the coaching session, I just kept thinking about, oh, well, I like this about him. And oh, I like that about him, and on and on. And then a few hours later, I was at Sprouts and I was shopping and I saw this man at the store. And he kind of looked like David. And there was just kind of a similar feeling. And I was like, wow, that was really fast. And so I kind of have stopped doing it since, but it's that. Another thing I heard this week from listening to Abraham a lot was we have people, when we interact with people, they have no idea how much they could be helping us. And so David had no idea how much he helped me conjure all of those feelings in just that short amount of time of us meeting and interacting with each other. And he gave me such a big gift because it was like higher power gave me this sample of how I want to feel and the characteristics of my partner. So, and we do that for others and we have no idea, right? Like sometimes, haven't you had this? I know everyone has. I know I have, where someone goes, well, you helped me so much because you said that a long time ago, and it's stayed with me ever since. And I'm like, I did? I don't even remember saying that, right? Has anyone ever said that to you?
All the time. People have, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know the impact that we have on others.
But I think the thing that really is fascinating to me about the concept is that if you feel good enough on your own to allow in something that something you want to be, do, or have, you actually don't. need the thing that you're desiring, and it's perfectly fine to desire it, and it's the best way to allow it in. But it does feel like a little bit of a trick to me. I feel like Abraham has said that before on some of the workshops that I've listened to on YouTube, where she's like, this is a little bit of a trick, but it's sort of like, if you get feeling really good, just good in general, like if you're just really lying on your bed at home and you're super happy, um, you don't you don't need the new car with that same sort of desperation that sometimes we have with these things. But then it's like, oh wait, well, if I feel so good and I don't need the car, should I still get the car? It's like,
And what's
and
funny
the
is
answer is yes,
it's
but
gonna show up. It's gonna
yeah,
show up. Like you keep
right,
doing that, it's gonna eventually
right.
show up.
But it does seem a little counterintuitive. It does seem to be like, well, wait a minute. If I actually feel so good, like I already have the car, I don't need it. Like, why would I actually need the actual car?
Because it's gonna conjure so many other good emotions. You're gonna have so many more wonderful
Well,
experiences.
yes. And I think Abraham points out a really good sort of trap door, though, to that is when we're in that, this whole sort of discussion highlights the fact, for me at least, that when we're in sort of a more desperate desire state, so we're focusing on the lack of the thing, like
Hmm.
why do I have a beat up car and I
Yeah,
can't get a new
yeah.
car, that sort of thing. The trap door in that sort of thinking is, you think you'll feel better when you get the new car, and in that
Mm,
situation, like,
yeah.
this isn't this is the opposite of how the law of attraction works. But let's just say, as an example, you have this negative vibration, you're focusing on the lack of the new car, but somehow the new car shows up, right? You will feel better for a short period of time. But when you're in that desperate state, I think a lot of times what happens is we think, when I get the new car, I will feel great forever,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like, that new car is going to solve all my problems. I'll feel fantastic. And what the reality is that any experience, any activity, any possession that we attract or allow into our lives, it it usually has a smaller amount of ability to give us that feeling than we imagine beforehand.
It has a shelf life.
Yeah,
It does.
yeah,
Like I said to you earlier, I never met a feeling that didn't pass. That
yeah,
feeling's gonna pass, that feeling of joy.
yeah.
But if it's something we really want, um, we'll still enjoy it, right? But the
100%.
that excitement of it all, it does pass.
Yeah,
Even getting into a new relationship, that the honeymoon stage, that
yeah,
does pass.
yep.
And so with everything, it does pass. And I was thinking about the woman that I met at Kono's years ago, when she said to me, she's like, I was just happy and things always worked out for me.
Yeah,
And I was like, dang, that just says it right there. Like,
yeah.
if I just do my part, like, stuff that I want's gonna show up, experiences that I want's gonna it's just, and I don't know when and how.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic of life, is not knowing, because that's what makes it so exciting and surprising and like, wow. Um, but if I don't do the good feeling work, like, I'm just gonna kind of stay stuck in this like perpetual unhappiness and
Well, yeah, and I think
drear.
for me in the
Very.
past, and for a lot of people, I think you're staying stuck in that sort of circular unhappiness, but you're also convinced that something other than your emotional state is the key to long-term feeling better. And I think that's the trap, is being staying unhappy and thinking, well, if I just had a better job, or if I just could find a boyfriend or girlfriend, or if I just could get $1 million, well, then I'd be happy for the long term. And the reality is, if you're maintaining a state of lack and maintaining a state of unhappiness, getting a boyfriend or getting a car or getting a lot of money, that's going to be a temporary fix. And then you're going to go back to, once the shelf life of that wears off, you're going to go back to your inner state. So the interesting thing about maintaining a happy state as much as you can is, it's a dual gift, right? Because on the one
Yeah,
hand, if
yeah.
you maintain a positive vibration, like you say, like the stuff that you're desiring, that you've put in your vortex is just going to keep showing up because you're in this good feeling state. But also, you're going to have a happy life because you're feeling good inside,
Yeah.
and you're not dependent
Right.
on
That's what I was gonna say.
manifesting X. Like, I'm only going to be happy if I manifest
When.
this
Yeah.
fill in the blank, right? Because so many people, that's the story that we hear a lot, I think, of like people who are super unhappy, but they somehow manifest a lot of stuff. Like, there's, plenty of stories of wealthy people who, make more money and more money and more money, and they're still miserable. And it seems to be that it's because they're convinced that the next thing they go out and get is going to make them happy, and yet it never does. So they have to go out and keep getting it with this kind of like desperate, you know.
And the reason why they keep getting it is they believe, they have a belief that they can have it, that they
Yeah,
deserve it.
yeah,
And so that's why it's not just the joy that brings it, it's also the
right,
belief and expectation.
yeah,
There's so many components of the art of allowing. It's just not,
yeah.
oh, feel good and life's going to get better. It's like,
It's belief, yeah,
yeah, and emotion and like, and I was listening to something this week and it was like, I can have doubt, but if the desire overpowers the doubt, it'll still come in.
yeah,
So it goes back to, again, the manifestation isn't the person, place, or thing, it's really the emotion. So we can
yeah,
conjure the emotion. Like
yeah,
if I want to feel good now, I can find something that makes me feel better.
yeah.
It's like a whole spill.
And again, that will be a dual gift, because if you can get yourself from a low energy or low vibrational emotional state, and you can just climb up the ladder that we talked about a couple episodes ago to a better feeling state, yes, you're going to manifest more stuff out of your vortex into your life that you're desiring, but also you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
Like, like, you might get the car a month from now, but the immediate gift is you'll feel better. Like, I do feel like our society and our culture has this weird, it's never stated on the surface, but there is this weird kind of message that, like, for certain things or certain situations, if you suffer enough, you know you'll get something great out of that.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
if you get miserable enough and share your misery with enough people, then
Yeah.
something that will trigger something good to happen. And it's like, yeah, that's not my
That's a
experience.
big,
Like,
man, that's a big price to pay too. Like, who am
right,
I
it's
helping
like,
there? Like
A,
no
I don't think
one.
it works, and B,
Yeah.
you're miserable on the way
Ugh.
to it.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah,
I know. I know. I don't even like feeling bad anymore. It's like, what the, ugh, it's yucky. And I can actually feel it in my body sometimes. Like
yeah,
I had that feeling this week where I was thinking, I had these negative thoughts going on and it had built up momentum. And then I started feeling it in my body and I was like, what? I'm
yeah,
like, holy crap. I'm like, that's how disease is created.
yeah,
Do that, constantly for hours every day, days and weeks and months and years. And then that's how where, I feel like a lot of these diseases come from. It's that resistance in my body.
yeah.
But I actually felt it, like the resistance in my body. And I was like, whoa, I don't think I had ever felt it, been so conscious of it before. And I was
Do you
like,
think,
oh, yuck.
talking about this, it makes me wonder, because I mean, I definitely had the experience of being challenged by and having to work on, um, this concept of what I deserve in terms of the things that I'm trying to allow into my life. Like, I've had to work on myself to believe that I deserve to make good money, and deserve a nice car, and deserve a nice home. Do you think that some people, because we're talking about the person who's looks like an anomaly in a way, because they're miserable, but they're attracting all this stuff in. I just had this thought of, like, I wonder if some of those people have this belief that they deserve money and they deserve nice cars and fancy clothes, but they don't deserve to be happy.
Yeah, I'm sure there's every component out there,
Yeah,
you know, like,
because that'll work. As if I believe I don't deserve a nice car, it's going to be extremely difficult for me to attract a nice car. And I was just thinking, like, oh yeah, if I also have a belief that I don't deserve to be happy, or like it's wrong for me to be happy, like I shouldn't make other people uncomfortable by being happy because so many people are unhappy.
I used to have that feeling when I
I mean,
when
I
I
think
started
that's kind of common.
when I started feeling better and better, and I'd get around certain people and they
Yeah,
weren't happy at all, I was
right.
like, I
You feel
remember
guilty.
I was like, yeah, I was like, I was uncomfortable because I had a lot of different thoughts going on in my head, but I was like, oh, can't be too happy because they'll be like,
Yeah,
what's up with her? Like, why
yeah,
is she so happy?
yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
so
I
I
think
would
that
tone
that's
it down a little. But now I just don't really have those kind of people in my life. So,
yeah.
but
Well, the other thing too is I think it's, again, I feel like I throw our society and our culture under the bus a lot, but I'm gonna do it again. I do think there is this kind of idea out there that we all get fed, whether we adopt it and believe it and it becomes ingrained in us or not, is another story. But this idea that when whether it's your family or your coworkers or your neighbors or whatever, that it's wrong to stand out. It's wrong to You need to blend in with your
yeah,
family
status
or
quo.
whatever.
Yeah.
So if your family believes that it's all rich people are evil, then and you really drink that in as a kid and it becomes a belief, then you're gonna have to work on releasing that belief if you want to attract wealth, because your system is like set up to
Yeah,
resist money from that belief,
exactly. And even if I were to allow it in, I would release it because I have this belief and I wouldn't want
well
to
this
go
is
against my family. So
yeah.
Jerry had Esther talks about this situation with Jerry when Jerry started creating more and
So
wealthy.
Jerry Hicks is
Jerry
Esther's
Hicks,
husband
yeah.
who's
Thank
passed
you.
on.
Yeah, exactly. He was the one that helped catapult us all knowing who and bringing about Abraham because he had all these questions. And so Abraham answered a lot of them for him. But one of them was he felt because he grew up very poor, like very poor.
Yeah,
And so as he became an adult, he started creating wealth for himself, but he had this tug of war within him because he grew up thinking like wealthy people were shysters and that they were evil and did bad things. And he had a mentor who was like, you're never going to be able to be wealthy or keep your wealth if you have that attitude about it.
yeah,
And so he worked on changing his belief system. And I remember Abraham talking about it, and one of the things that he did was like, oh well, if I buy this Cadillac, I am helping all the workers on the assembly line who helped make this car.
yeah,
And the salesman at the he's going to be able to feed his family and live well. So he turned it around so that he
yeah,
is like him having money and buying nice things was so many people were benefiting from that purchase. And
yeah,
so that helped him work around his beliefs that it was wrong and bad to be wealthy.
yeah. Well, you and I have talked about another individual, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him or even give his name because I don't want to trigger anybody. But a New York real estate magnate who is also now a former president of the United States. Like, if you look at his life, what we know about it from the media and everything, like he obviously, love him or hate him, he obviously has the ability to allow in tons of like money and success and fame and all this stuff. But then as I look at his journey, he also does this stuff where he alienates people, he loses things that he's built or accumulated, and then he has to like kind of go get it back, and so I wonder with him, I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. I wonder with him, it's like obviously he's got beliefs like I deserve X, Y, and Z, I deserve money, I deserve, fame, whatever. But then he's also got to have some sort of belief in there that sabotages that after the fact, that like I don't deserve to keep it, or I don't deserve to be happy with it or
Mm.
whatever. And it's kind of weird to watch somebody continually allow so much what a lot of us would think is good stuff, like owning golf courses and money and stuff like that, but then like watch like so much of it go away or get damaged by repeatedly by the same sorts of behavior. It's like
That reminds me of there was an older gentleman who was in the hot seat, and they call it the hot seat when you get to go up on stage and ask Abraham a question or something. And this gentleman was older, and he's like, I've lost everything. I've worked so hard in my life, and I lost it all. And he's like, I can't do it over again. I just, I have a limited amount of time on earth now. And Abraham was like, you don't have to do all that over again. He's like, what do you mean? And Abraham's like, you've already created that set point. And so even though you've lost it all, your vibration is at that you have all of that. So it's not going to take you the 30 years that it took you to build it, because your energy and your vibration is that.
Yeah.
And it was like so cool to listen, because it kind of reminds me of my situation where, I lived in my home for like 25 plus years. I love my property, the house was paid off, all these things I loved about it. And like, I don't have that anymore. And it was like, but Steph, that's your set point. So even though it went away, you're going to get it back. It's going to look differently, but it will be the energy of, because that is your set point. And that makes me feel so good. And again, I don't know how, I don't know when, it's not my job. Law of attraction is taking care of all of it. What I need to do is what we started this whole episode with, is the manifestation, the feeling. How does it feel? I want to feel good. Oh, I can feel good now. So then I'm a vibrational match. I'm a cooperative component. I'm not the only holdout, because it's all been gathered. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there.
Well said, my friend. All right. Well, we're super happy that you joined us for this discussion today. We hope you got something out of it. Remember, we're posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning. We also truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast. Everything you do, following, liking, writing us a review, all that stuff, all that helps other people find us. All our social media links and our email address are down in the doodly-doo in the description of the YouTube version below. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.